So, hello friends. Today we are going to be talking about the books that I'm going to be reading for the fall. Fall is fast approaching. I can't believe it already. This summer had gone by incredibly fast, but here we are. So I'm going to be going over these books that I'm going to be going over, and I think there's 11, 7, 8, 9, no, 9. Sorry, there's 9 books. I took some off the list, but there are going to be 9 books that I'm going to be reading over the fall, and I'm going to maybe adding some depending on if I get any of these read. So the first, they're not in any order of when they're going to be read, because I want to read all of these, but first book that I want to mention is Vampire Hunter D, The Rose Princess. This is part of a Vampire Hunter D series. Look at that cover. It's gorgeous. I love the cover design. But this is the Vampire Hunter D I discovered as a teenager as a anime, but then I realized that there are a series of books, and they're all standalones. Like, you don't have to have read any of the other books to be able to pick up any of them and read it. So, and it's a long series. But they're also translated from the Japanese. It's a Japanese translation, translated fiction, and it's really good, like cyberpunk Gothic vampire story. It's basically about the world has been, there was a war between vampires and these alien beings that kind of shook the world and turned it into this dystopian, almost wasteland. And now the vampires are what's called nobles, and they have taken over a majority of the world. And talked about this character called Vampire Hunter D, who is hunting down these vampires, these nobles that are supposed to now, at this point, story, a lot of them are long gone. The humans are kind of trying to retake the land, but Vampire Hunter D is supposed to be a vampire hunter who goes and takes care of these nobles when they pop up, and he's very strong. He's a very mysterious character who is, I think, a vampire, which is half vampire, half human, and he has, like, his lineage goes back to these nobles, and so there's a complicated history here to it, and I love it. It's the world building is gorgeous. I love the kind of the Gothic cyberpunk feel to it. I loved the style, and I loved the action in this story. And they're all illustrated in some way. Don't look at the illustrations, but they're beautiful. They're Gothic and perfect for spooky season because it's all about vampires and things like that. So if you want an adventure horror, this would be a good one to get started with. The next is going with the Gothic theme. 7 Gothic Tales, a work of imagination, very subtle and graceful magic. So by Isaac Dunson, put together by Isaac Dunson. I think these are seven short stories. So it's called 7 Gothic Tales, and it's beautiful. Look at that. The cover. I like the cover. It's actually very interesting. And these are short stories, so I thought I would, while I am reading a novel, I could be reading one of these short stories as I go along as well through a day. So I thought that would be good to have some short story collections. So I don't know very much about this this author, except that it's supposed to be Gothic tales and should be perfect for spooky season. All right, and one of the short novels that I'm going to be reading is What Moved the Dead by D. Kingfisher. I've heard a lot about this story, and I don't really know a lot about the plot, and I wanted to go in not knowing a lot, and so that's what I'm going to be really going into, looking for, is to go into it blind. So we have, when Alex Easton, retired soldier, receives word that their childhood friend, Madeline Usher, is dying, they race to the ancestral home of the Ushers into the remote countryside of Ruritania. What they find there is a nightmare. And so that's basically all we know so far. So I can't wait to get into it. It's very, very short. You can probably read this in one sitting if you really wanted to. So it's good. And T. Kingfisher has beautiful prose and beautiful storytelling, so I'm looking forward to that, because I have read Nettle and Bone not too long ago and really enjoyed it. So, the next one I have on my list is another vampire story that I do. No secret, I do love vampires. They're some of my favorite, spooky villains. This one is The Dowry of Blood by S.T. Gibson. And so The Dowry of Blood is basically about a bride of a powerful vampire and her story in kind of a journal format, and about how she kind of survives, or like kind of goes through being a creature, turned into a creature of the night, and and it's supposed to be a lot about her dynamic with her vampire husband, and so I'm excited about that. So basically it's like a Dracula's bride story, I do believe, kind of what it's about. So, and I'm really interested to get that perspective that we actually get. I've never really had very much before, so I'm excited to read that. Next, more short stories. If I have time, I'm going to be getting into H.P. Lovecraft, and there's some stories, blood-curdling tales of horror and the macabre. So it's just some of the more well-known stories of H.P. Lovecraft. So I'd be interested to get into that. So we have The Rats on the Walls, Picture in the House, The Outsider, Pickman's Model, The Silver Key, and Dreams in the Witch House. All of those kind of some of the well-known ones. It doesn't have the Call of Cthulhu. It does have the Call of Cthulhu. It has Call of Cthulhu in here. So this is some of his most well-known works, and I wanted to get into it because I've seen all the re-influences, and I know generally what the tales are, but I haven't actually read much of him, and I know there's some controversy, and I want to see it for myself. Like, I want to see it, like, okay, how do I really feel about this author that I've not read? So that's what I want to do. And the next one is a sci-fi, because I have to be weird and have like different genres. I can never just stick to one genre. So we have The Spare Man by Mary Robinette Kowal. The Spare Man by Mary Robinette Kowal. And this story, it is a murder mystery basically set in space, and that is really all I know. That's all I have to know about it. It seems like it's going to be funny and interesting, and so I can't wait to get into that. And of course it's a thriller, so sci-fi thriller I can get into for spooky season. And the biggest book on this list that I'm talking about is huge. Robin Hobb-ish, if not more. Let's see, how many pages is it? Oh no, yeah, it's a Robin Hobb type book. It's called The Empire of the Vampire. This book is a fantasy about a vampire society. So I'm excited to read about that. It's by Jay Kristoff, actually. Sorry, Empire of the Vampire by Jay Kristoff. And it is, I don't know anything about it. I like to go into my horror blind. That way I'm not having expectations. But I'm expecting an epic fantasy that has about vampires, and I'm really can't wait to see it. And that cover is gorgeous. Look at that. Love it. But yeah, so that's really, there's a map in the back. Didn't realize that when I first got it. There we go, look at that map. Awesome. Okay, so it's going to be an epic fantasy with vampires, and I'm here for it. And I've heard so much about it. Everyone seems to love it who's read it. So here, let's read a little bit of this. It had been 27 long years since the last sunrise. For nearly 3 decades, vampires have waged war against humanity, building their eternal empire even as they tear down our own. Now, only a few tiny sparks of light endure in a sea of darkness. So, as I said, it's a kind of a Gothic style epic fantasy about vampires. So, I'm excited to read that. But this is going to be a chunky boy, so what I might do be reading this while also having some of these smaller books on the go and short stories. Alright, now here is a surprise, another vampire book. This is brand new this year. called The Vampires El Norte by Isabella Canas. And if I've mispronounced that, I am so sorry. But anyway, that is it's another vampire story set in the Old West, and so I'm expecting a Gothic tale about a small town probably being beset by vampires. So we're going to have to see how that turns out. I've not read it, and I want to go in as blind as I can, but that's kind of what this has been pitched as a vampire story in the Old West. So I cannot wait, and I will let you know. So it's set in the 1840s. That's something I'm checking. It's set in the 1840s, so it really is the Old West. So we're going to see how it goes, and I'm very excited. So for this one, the next one, The Violin Conspiracy by Brendan Salcombe. Now this is an interesting story. I've been wanting to read this since it came out. This is a thriller about a young man of color who is a violinist and ends up with a very expensive Stradivarius violin, and then something happens to this violin, and you've got to find it, and apparently it turns very sinister. So I want to see, and it's all I want to see how it discusses like racism within the musical community, and especially when it comes to classical music and the elitism. So I'm excited. I want to see how it handles that. So I'm expecting a good spooky time with The Violin Conspiracy. So I've heard good things about it, so we shall see. And that's it. I do have some that if I finish these, I'm going to be getting into, but I don't think I'm going to be completely honest. It's a big list that I have here. So I'm hoping that I get to as many of these as I can. And I will take you along for the ride. I might do a blog or two if you'd like, or I might end up just doing a wrap up. We'll see what happens. But that is the books that I am probably I'm recommending, and the books that I'm going to be reading myself over the fall spooky season, which I cannot wait. So thank you for joining me, and as always, have an adventure with reading, my friend.